What is up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today we cover the hooker position. We go through every single hooker for every single team. We go team by team and cover the dual position players as well. It's a great episode. I'm joined by Timmy today, so sit back and relax. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Savage, the coach of the Savage Turbos or the Canoe Crew. I'm going to put it up for vote this year, I think. Had a really good season with the Savage Burbos last year. The Savage Turbos seems to be home, but the Canoe Crew really stuck last year. I'm joined by the coach of Viliami. I'm not sure. Tim Moody, how are you going, Timmy?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Just in a really tough position at the moment. Like, obviously, have coached the Viliami for quite a while now, but there's a new foundation club that wants to emerge within the SuperCoach realms, and obviously with my experience, it's a bit like a Wayne Bennett sort of situation. It's want me to go coach them for a couple of years, get them up and running. It's really tempting. Obviously, it's very lucrative. It's basically just I'm thinking about changing my name. That's all it is. Thinking about changing from the Viliami to potentially the Romies Homies.
Ooh.
Big decisions to be made. I'm going to be sending both squads off to boot camp in the preseason, just see which ones appeal to me the most.
We're talking about hookers today, but you're going to introduce something this season. You spoke about your boot camp, whether to get the Luai's Legends or whatever you're going to call yourself.
Romy's Homies.
Romy's Homies. I personally like... There was one I really liked that I came up with the other day, but I forgot about it. I think it was like Romy's... When in Rome... I don't know. I came up with it the other day. It was great, but I couldn't think of it now. But... You talk about a boot camp. You're going to pretty much, when we go over all these players in the preseason, you're going to select a bunch of players to put in your boot camp for your preseason.
Yeah, it's quite exciting. So obviously the hookers are going to do the most work because if I'll be putting them into the boot camp and got a little green book. This is for the players that make the train and trial for the boot camp. Really exciting. We'll see how they go. Hooker's going to get a lot of work through. Obviously, the fullbacks will make a decision sort of the back end just before probably it's going to be the last position we go through, so they won't have to do much work. They're pretty boys. Mm-hmm. But the Hookers obviously get in there and get it done early, so we want them to lead from the front.
And they do a lot, and we've pretty much deep dived into every single hooker position prior to this, so we're going to have an open discussion on the hookers. But firstly, how was your off-season?
Yeah, it's nice, man. Just pretty relaxing. I've sort of got to catch up with some good mates that went to Surface just before Christmas and new job in the off-season. So, yeah, a few things to sort of keep me going.
Yeah, I just came back from Surface too. It was a good time. I can't wait to get back to Queensland this year because I've already booked Magic Round. So I'm very excited for that. And I'm excited for the NRL season. We've only got like 55 days left until NRL season starts. But if you do want to get the edge on your SuperCoach game, head over to our Patreon. The link is in the description. We've got a bunch of articles there. Timmy did up a nice little draw analysis on the first 6 rounds.
Microsoft Excel, actually, I might say. I've been doing it on cardboard with highlighters and pens for the last probably 8 years. And I just got ChatGPT to taught me how to use Excel. So
that's nice.
Learned a skill in the off-season too, which is fun.
That's nice. And all our notes for today's podcast is already up there on the Patreon. So head over to there and you get early access for a lot of things as well. So let's go over the hooker position. We're going to go team by team because that's just how we're going to do the hookers. Front row and all the other positions might be different, but we figured the best way to do this was to go team by team. And we're starting with the Brisbane Broncos. It's a fight between Billy Walters and Blake Mozer. Billy Walters, $389,000. I don't know what's going to end up here. Blake Mozer, $312,000. Billy Walters pretty much averaged 50 minutes, and whoever was on the bench was averaging 30 minutes. I don't know if that just completely shifts if Blake Mozer ends up starting, or whether Madge, the new coach coming in, completely changes it up. And I think in the past, Madge has really put his faith in young hookers. Damien Cook, he gave Damien Cook an 80-minute role over Robbie Farah, and Robbie Farah ended up playing through the middle for the Rabbitohs.
Interesting fact.
He also was the person who blooded Api Coruscant and Isaac Luke. So in Clubland, he tends not to play 50-30. But I think you've also got to play with what you're doing with the cattle you have. So Billy Walters and Blake Moser are very good options if they both get an 80-minute role. But firstly, what are your thoughts on who do you think gets that position?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I kind of had a little bit of a gut feel that, like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are a bit off the Billy Walters just in general. Like, he's not a fantastic footy player, but I think he's sort of over last year and the year before, sort of in bits have sort of shown enough. Sort of copped a bit of a hard time with, obviously when your dad coaches the side, you sort of seem like you're getting it easy kind of thing, or you're only there because of it. So I don't know. My gut vibe was maybe that he might shake it up and go with Blake Moser, like his state of origin, junior state of origin hooker, and he's been around for I think a couple of those. I think he's played 2 of those last 2 state of origins from memory. So yeah, he looks like he could be the next big thing. So, but mate, I always personally seem to think that the coaches will just put faith in the young guys, because I sort of have a lot of faith in get them out there. They're going to be guns, But I think from what I've found in the past, I've been wrong on a lot of them, and they end up going with someone a bit more seasoned to start the season sometimes, and let them come off the bench and maybe blood them a bit. I don't know. How do you see it?
Personally, SuperCoach-wise, I'm not going to touch either. I think the plan will be to blood Blake Moser into a bigger starting role, but maybe they do a shift to start off. Maybe Blake Moser starts 40 minutes, Billy Walters 40 minutes, and then I think by the end of the year we will see Blake Moser in that position. Madge is ruthless though. Madge could put Blake Moser in an 80-minute role and we could be scrambling to get him. But let's go straight into the stats, because we can't really... This is a side I'm not keen on, so... we don't want to go through 17 teams and go this long, but...
I mean, I'm a bit shaky on both of these at the moment because I don't know enough about which one's going to get the minutes, but I think if one of them gets, more of a nod at the price, they're both sort of Moses 312k and Billy Walters is, pretty much 390k, so... I think both will be good price if they get 60 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. So with Billy Walters, average about 50 minutes. Take away the 3 from his score, and he averages 41.5 instead of 39.8. So, it's a 2-point increase in value just based on the minutes he was getting. So if he does get more minutes, there is more value to be had there. He averaged around 55 minutes a game, so it'll be interesting to see Madge's approach on the rotation.
See, Billy was already getting pretty... decent minutes, 51 minutes and only averaging 40, so that's why I'd probably be more inclined to go with hoping Billy Moser gets the nod, because he was only getting 34 minutes across 8 games, but 32 points, which is not far off. 8 points less than what Billy Walters was getting with, basically 15, 16 minutes more footy, so...
He did have 2 games which were over 50 minutes. He had 1 game where he played 50 minutes and he scored 44 points with a try assist and line break assist. He had 25 tackles as well. So I think it's nice to know if he gets 60 minutes, and I look through all his games, he pretty much gets half a tackle per minute. Based on points. So if he plays 60 minutes, that's 30 points in tackles a game. If he gets that attacking stat, 50 points, but he will need those attacking stats to make money. He's 312k, so it doesn't take much to get that cash gen going. But let's move on to the Raiders, if you don't have anything to add.
Look, neither of them are going in the black book yet. Moser could with more information throughout the season, so yeah.
Moser is currently in my side.
All right.
Because... I think
there's so many good hookers there. I don't know if you're unsure of him, why you're trying to... Well,
there's good cheapie prospects at hooker.
Yeah.
But now I think of it, there are too many, and maybe he's one I don't need to have. Yeah. But I put him in to fit someone else in my...
Oh, you need an extra 30, 40k
or something like that. So
okay.
I'll speak... I've already spoken about that on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it was a Patreon podcast. I've gone 3-gun fullbacks for my flex position. So I will talk about that in the fullback.
Interesting.
In the fullback and flex role.
Nice. It's such a you thing to do too, go hard aggressive before everyone. I'm going with the Yongi. I'm going 2 guns and the Yongi because I want to make money there, and I feel like, you'll probably downgrade after. You could probably do it for 2 games and then downgrade straight to him and get 3-gun fullbacks. Oh, we're not on the fullbacks, but here we go. They're more interesting.
We're talking about
more
hookers.
interesting. But okay, we're doing the hookers.
And we're talking about hookers. All right, on to the Canberra Raiders. Bit of a shit show for them last year. Danny Levi started the season and then he got dropped, and then towards the end of the year starting again. He averaged 40.2 in his first 6, and big emphasis, we're going to emphasize on the first 6 rounds this year, because I think that's very important when looking for value, especially if it's not someone you're going to hold all year. I think someone like Harry Grant is different. You don't really need to look at what they're averaging in the first 6, but I think when you're trying to look for value, it's what I did last year. And
you did really good, man. I think I'm going to need to be, really soaking in some spongy sort of whatever from you at this point of the year.
Levi averaged about 60 minutes, 0.67 ppm in his first 5, and scored 4 tries in his first 5. So his average is a lot higher because of them first 5 rounds. But Tom Starling's the interesting one. I like 342,000. I reckon he's my number 1 cheapie option at hooker if he starts. He only averaged 18.8 in the first 6. He's priced at about a 35, but he played 7 games where he started and played big minutes. He averaged 61.7 through that middle to back end of the year. So if he does start, I love him as a cheapie prospect. At that price, we're getting Mamazelos, we're getting Moser, we're getting Lachlan Croker, who you're quite keen on, for that similar price. I love him, especially if he starts, but it's the Ricky roulette.
Yeah, I think he might be someone that needs to go in the book because, I remember Mikey had him at the back end of last year and was handy enough. He sort of had him as his main guy, which was a bit of a detriment, but he was going close enough to being able to be justified to, match it with some of the bigger hookers at a very cheap price. So I've just got here from round 17 to 27, his minutes increased from, he was, average, his average for the year was 44, but in those last 10 rounds, the average of minutes jumped to 53 minutes, and then that was the average point, 53 points, and the mins went up to 65. So do you reckon, Levi was still
Levi
in the mix?
He wasn't injured.
Yeah, so it wasn't so it was like there was a shift there.
Yeah, but towards the end of the season, Levi started again. I think just because, I don't know what the go was, but they started winning games against Penrith and the Roosters late on in the year. But the Ricky roulette is such a hard one. But I heard on the Bloke in a Bar podcast that Tom Starling, Ricky likes him as that on the bench player coming on with impact.
Because that's what I was going to say. That's his one. His detriment to his own self is that he's so good at being
so good off the bench
with that impact and speed, and when people are tired.
But that being said, his goal is to be the starting hooker. He does want to be that starting hooker, and I think that's why Ricky gave him that chance, because just to see what he can do. And
I think you need to deep dive into how they rotate all the rest of the forwards' minutes to work out whether they could, make space for Levi playing through the middle or something like that.
The good thing is, with Canberra Raiders, Ethan Sanders could potentially start in that side this year, which will shift, a Ethan Strange to centre, Seb Chris to the wing. And that leaves them with K.O. Weeks, Chevy Stewart or someone like that who can play that 14 role instead. Who knows how they kind of play it, but I think this is one where...
just got me excited when you said Chevy Stewart. He's going to come good this year, I reckon, isn't he?
I think...
At some point, even if it's not
K.O. Weeks starts the year, but
I
do think if he gets a shot, he'll really nail it. I like Tom Starling, Danny Levi. He's... at the price, if he starts round 1, I think people will be interested, but I don't think he can do it again.
Can I just address myself at the moment, because I feel really awkward and I don't have anyone else looking at it. Why does he look so awkward? I'm like the leaning tower of Timmy at the moment. There's my chair's
Are you leaning?
It's got I'm really deep on this angle. It's like, I was saying it before we kicked off, it's like that thing in the playground when you're a kid and you just sit on it and you...
Well, it's funny because you had another chair to start off and
it's worse than this one.
Oh, is it actually?
Yeah, it's way worse than this one.
Wow. And I guess I had to put down Owen Paddy here. He's someone who has been earmarked. The rugby league guru loves him, and his next could be anything.
Maybe Levi could be like on the way out or something.
Well, potentially. But I looked at Owen Paddy's New South Wales Cup stats. He played 12 games. He only started 3 games, but he had 291 tackles across all them 12 games, an average of 25 tackles a game. So
thanks for doing that. I was trying to do that.
But he only started for 3 games, so you'd assume that that'd be a lot more considering he tackled so many times not starting. He had 3 tries, 5 try assists, 4 line break assists, and that's with only starting 3 games. So looks promising. I assume by the number of games he played last year, they'll pretty much give him a run back in New South Wales Cup next year or this year now, and he will most likely come onto the scene later in the year. If we do see him.
Especially if there's injuries and stuff, it would be a nice little gem that we could use later on.
For sure. Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs, Reed Marnie, 562,000. In his first 6 games, he averaged 67. In his first 5 games, he averaged 67. I say this because he was someone who he always starts hot. And I think he's a little guy who is really affected by all the tackles he makes by the end of the year, and it's his negative stats which really drag him down towards the end of the season. He averages 50 plus tackles a game.
As the season goes on, he focused more on his niggle game than his...
Well, yeah, exactly. Like he's still averaging the same amount of tackles. He just averages way more in negative stats. His season average is 57.5, so in the first 5 games when he is fit and healthy, it's a 10-point buffer there. I don't mind Reed Marnie, especially with their draw.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I don't know. Like, is this someone I've sort of always, like, in the past said, nah, he really haunts me, and, you know, he tempts you, and then he can just punch out really low score after low score for like a month straight.
Yeah.
So probably not for me at this point. I don't think there's enough value screaming out. And there's other guys at a similar price. If I'm going to spend premium like Appy and stuff like that, I'd probably rather go.
It's near premium, isn't it?
Oh, pretty close, yeah.
The Bulldogs do have St George, Gold Coast, Parramatta, Cronulla, Newcastle, then the bye. Their draw is okay. But I think with someone like Reed Marnie, the attacking stats is what you want, but you don't want him making only 25 tackles because it's the 50 tackle games that really bust him up. But that being said, at the start of the season, that's when teams are up and teams really, their defence is up. Cronulla Sharks, Blake Brayley, 519,000, slightly cheaper. In his first 6, he averaged 60.3. He's priced at a 53, so based on the first 6, that's 7 points in value to start the year. And I guess we emphasise this because the hooker is a position where you kind of can take that punt early and try something else. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like this price, that 519K, is kind of the price of like a premium guy that he's pretty consistent too. Like although he's not killing it all the time. Like I'm not trying to say, but he's not. There's not too much variance, like high ones, low ones. You know what you're going to get out of him most of the time, and he will be good for pretty much a 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you want a bit more out of him, and you probably can get that. But I feel like he's got that sort of vibe of going a bit cheaper than the other premium ones to free up enough money to have a better gun or something elsewhere, like what you did with Robson last year. Don't mind him. Not heaps off it.
Draw Penrith at Vegas, North Queensland away, Souths at home, Canterbury at home, Canberra away, and Manly at home. So their draw is a little bit mixed. I think, like for Blake Brayley, he's that type of player that he will rely on their go forward, and I think Adam Fanor-Blake could
really help, and he could be putting him over all the time.
Yeah.
So that's something to really consider too.
And
at that price, that's an extra he can put other guys over, but he's got that. Yeah. No one else scores like him.
And like we saw Tohu and Adam Fanor-Blake kind of
books coming out. I just got a little bit excited around.
Sorry?
Black book.
The black book. He's going in the black book.
It's been calling a black book until I went to the shop and they didn't have any black books, and now it's a green book.
Blake Brayley. He's in the black book. obviously with Adam Fanua-Blake, he linked up with Tohu Harris a lot last year. I don't see Cameron McInnes being that guy. He potentially could be. Maybe, like, we are going to talk about Cameron McInnes when we talk about the dual position players available at hooker, but maybe Cameron McInnes at a similar price is someone who we can earmark as well.
One thing I did want to sort of flag about him, because you've been big on the first 6 rounds, and the first game he plays Panthers, if you're going to want to play Penrith, it's probably the first round.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially at Vegas. Because the higher scoring they were than the other games were last season, I think, from memory.
Yeah, they were.
So that's a plus. And one other thing here, I've got here from last year. So last year, over 60 points, he did that 42% of the time. Now, over 75 points was only 8.3% of the time. So very small, but of those 2 times, they were both in the first 8 rounds, those big ones.
Right.
So he did score over 75 twice in the first 8 rounds. So
do you think this is...
you can't always replicate that. It's not like it's... it could happen any time. It could have just been the opponent he had in that match that might not get to round 10 now or whatever, but...
Do you feel like that's why we should be looking at these hookers first 6 rounds? Because these real little hookers seem to start really well, and then it's when their body gets busted up is when the lower scores tend to come in. I think there's a real trend there, to be honest, and that's why I kind of looked at it last year. I think Robson, who I started with last year, is a bit different. I think he can keep it going for the entire season. But even him, he fell off late last year, started really hot, averaged 74 to start the year. We are going to talk about him, but he's someone I'm quite interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I have always been pre-season going into it thinking I'm going to have to do double cheapies at hooker because of the flex and having to afford 3 fullbacks. But then it was like, as soon as I decided, I'm definitely going to start with Yongi, and he's a bottom dollar cheapie pretty much. Then I thought, well, I probably can afford to start with one decent enough hooker. It doesn't have to be Harry Grant or Appy, but maybe a bit less there, like a little bit less, he could be the guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Not locked into him yet, but feeling pretty good about him.
I do like him. And
just because 2 cheapies can be a bit of a headache, like especially if both of them don't kick on, and then you've got to find the money to upgrade them, because if they're both just putting out 30s and it's not working, or...
Yeah. The good thing about the hooker position this year, though, is the flex position. And I think it can be a position, if you like the cheapies that are available, it can be a position where you can kind of take a punt on, because your lowest score out of your 17 will drop out anyway. So maybe it's worth like...
But I reckon from a strategy point of view, if you're just automatically taking away the chance of any disasters or whatever... You're kind of losing the flex. If you want to take advantage of that in a little way, like week after week, a little bit, but for the most part, my feel is you want to just generally knock out what is a lower score, and if you can prevent that by putting someone in a position that will score well, then you want to be able to knock out week after week. Oh, that guy only scored that.
Would it be fair to say if you are going Yongi at fullback, you're probably better off looking for someone who can score well in that position?
For sure. I think so. That's where I'm going now. I'm thinking if I'm not going the 3 there, then I've got to make that back up at hooker.
Yeah.
But if you're going 2 cheapies and then having 3 guns, I feel like automatically you're ahead. And just thinking about it. But then I'm thinking about price wise. I want to get on.
You need value, yeah.
Yeah, I want to make money from it. A fullback, he's got potentially the best guy to make money off, as a cheapie too.
Yeah, that's true.
Consistently, like wingers, you've got to wait for. Fullbacks should be getting it most of the time.
It's pretty interesting this year with the flex position, because like fullbacks tend to actually lose a lot of money at the start of the year. So if it doesn't work out, you've kind of got to act quickly. If it doesn't work out, like especially if Yongi kills at the start of the year, but we're not talking about fullbacks.
But I feel like that could be the good way to go for you if you are just going to do 3 and then whichever one doesn't kick the maddest, you just downgrade to Yongi. The week he's going to rise in money.
That's my exact thoughts. And maybe Yongi, gets knocked out for 2, and then his first legit price rise won't be.
The good thing about that, I know we're not on fullbacks, but the good thing about that is you're actually given 3 a crack to actually sprint from the start of the line, and if you get 2 of them, you've given yourself more chances to get 2 of them right.
Exactly.
And then you drop one off. I'm already thinking about doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Put in the book, get the back of the fullback.
We can talk about that very soon if you want. Cause
no, I'll do fullback. Here we are. We're staying in the moment. We're in the present.
I know, but the fullback is usually like a week.
Looking forward to the future gives me anxiety.
Oh, me too. Number 5, the Gold Coast Titans, Sam Verrills, 416,400. Verrills' minutes throughout the year were fluctuated a lot because of injury. But once he nailed down that starting role, with games over 50 minutes, he's most likely to do that if he is healthy. He averages 50.5, which is 8 points value on his 42.5 that he's averaged at. So I think with him, he doesn't excite me, but if he can stay healthy, there is a bit of value there. And it's, I guess, behind that forward pack, he really can take advantage.
The thing is that he did average 60 minutes last year, which is pretty good, and he at that price of 416k, he was only getting 43 points average. So it's kind of like you're going to get 60 points. You don't expect him to 60 minutes, I should say, again, which is pretty decent for a hooker of 400k. You think that's mad, but if he's only going to be getting around the 45, you're not really getting anything from it. So. Yeah, I don't know, unless there was a couple of... we could deep dive into him a little bit further later at some point and see whether there might have been a couple of really low games in there that really affected his average.
Yeah, my calculations are based on any injury-affected games are out, and I'm pretty sure I took out his first 3 games or something like that, because I think him and Randall were kind of swapping a lot in that hooker position to start the year. He did get injured a couple of times, but so his game's over 50 minutes. 50.5 is his average. I guess the good thing here with Verrills is the Titans they're either letting a lot of points in or they're scoring a lot as it was. So when they're scoring a lot, it's not really going through Verrills. Like, it's going through Jaden Campbell, it's going through, Dave Fafita, Kieran Foran. I don't know. I think there's a bit of upside. I'm not super keen. I think there's a lot of other better options.
Yeah, because there's so many others around a similar price. And just from what I've seen of him, if he's never been overly SuperCoach friendly, probably not, unless we sort of see something different to start the year.
For sure. Number 6, Lachlan Croker, 334,200. Lockie Croker. I think he's a pretty good cheapie prospect when he's fully fit. In 2023 and 2022, he averaged 54.6 and 52.2. He is currently priced at about a 35 average. I didn't put that average down for some reason. Yeah,
so last year, if you're just looking at stats of last year, he was getting 58 minutes per game and only 34 points. It was only across 14 games, but still a decent enough sample size.
Yeah. So
this is a really off year for him.
The concussion really knocked him, I reckon. In the first 3 weeks, he averaged 45. He scored 64 in his first week, but after that concussion, he was averaging 35 before the concussion in 9 rounds. After it, he went down in average. He was still averaging the same thing. So
2023, the year prior to last, he was getting 70 minutes, which was 12 more minutes than what he was playing last year on average, and he was getting 52 points per game on average. So if he's getting 52 points this year, and playing sort of closer to 70 minutes at 334k, there's heaps of value there. But
I don't know if he does get the minutes, because it wasn't even Jordan Chan-Kum-Tong as a genuine hooker that was affecting him. It was Carl Lawton when he wasn't needed in second row, and Carl Lawton. But
that was last year. Maybe he was a bit off or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
So the year prior, I don't know. Maybe they had less depth. I can't really think back to whether they.
Yeah, well, they didn't have Jordan Chan-Kum-Tong.
So maybe they were more.
He was. Carl Lawton was still there, but he wasn't playing as good as he did last year. I guess the thing that worries me is Carl Lawton's gone. I'd be more confident in going Lockie Croker, but then Jazz Tavanga comes in, who can play that sort of similar role to cover him.
He can, but I feel like at hooker, Lachlan Croker just is better. So I feel like you only need to do that if he can't get through the minutes. Yeah. But then I still think if Jordan Chen Kum Tong is still there, I feel like they're still trying to get him into the side.
I genuinely don't think Jordan Chen Kum Tong plays bench because they've got Takiaho in the side now.
Yeah.
I think he comes on as a forward. They've got Ben Trebojevic who's starting, so they'll have Waddell. You
make a good point, and then when you have Joe Stavanga there, you don't need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Him, but it's just sort of like, what do they do with him? I feel like they've kind of had a bit of faith in him. I don't know if it's just the cult hero sort of vibe that he's got sort of within the club and the fans that makes me think that they sort of really believe in him, or whether it's that could be just playing into it. Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe that he's not as favoured as what I thought.
Croker, I don't know. I think just last year was an off year. The thing that worries me is his stats were quite similar leading up to round 9. Like, we had a 9-game sample size, and it was very similar. He was averaging 50 minutes. I do think that changes, but
looking at the dynamic of the side or whatever, like, it depends how many minutes they're going to give to Jazz Tavanga too. They're probably just going to play him more through the middle, so he only play limited minutes through hooker. I feel like he's going to. I really think he's going to go at least 60 minutes. Like, he was getting 58 last year and 70 the year before. I feel like he was a bit off last year. At least 60. I don't know. I'm a little bit hopeful maybe, but I just feel like there's potential in that price from what we've seen in the past prior to last year.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's just fallen off a perch completely.
No.
He's never been super coach relevant at all. No one really wants him, but at that price, maybe.
And I guess over the last 3 years, that's the outlier. It's not like the other way around where randomly he's just averaged 55 one season and then all the other seasons are the same. It's last year that was the outlier. I think just looking at like Jordan Chen Kum Tong and Carl Lawton, I think that's the thing. It's
a bit of a threat.
It's a bit of a threat. Like, do they go that way? But
he's in the book. He's going to go there and he's going to have to train his ass off and show himself.
So you've got Brayley and Croker in the book so far.
Yeah.
You didn't put Moser in the book. You said that.
I can add him at a later point.
Yeah,
I feel like I need more information. He doesn't deserve the spot just yet.
You need Madge to come out and say
a bit of talk would be great.
Bit of backing. All right. Number 7, Melbourne Storm, Harry Grant. He will be their sole hooker at 691,600. The premium of premiums. Averaged 59.3 in his first 6 last year.
53, did you say?
59.3, which is down from his average of 70.3. I guess the thing that I want to highlight here is this is where the difference between me and you and me and a lot of super coaches last year. I went with Robson, who averaged 74 in the first 6, and Harry Grant,
a lot cheaper.
Harry Grant, who was over 100k more expensive.
About 200k cheaper, wasn't it? Was it closer to 200k than 100k?
Yeah, Robson was like 500k, and Harry Grant was a very similar price. And I think if you spend that amount on a player, you need to. I mean, especially when the fullbacks probably don't score their 150s early on. I think you need that hooker to score what you. Yeah,
he needs to be going bang from the get-go. He needs to go, because that's a big price, and there's not massive upside. So when you're paying 700k or whatever, which you could pay for like a gun halfback or whatever, like a Moses or something like that.
Well, Nico Hines is 730.
Well, there you go. I thought he would have been more in my mind. I haven't gone that far down into it. He is in my side to start with, but I haven't really looked too deep into it. So at that, but Nico, you'd be like, he's got that upside where he can get big tons. So can Harry. He's got like 120s, 140s in his game, but they're very sporadic. They're not as like week after week or every couple of weeks or whatever. So, I feel like for me last year I started with him. I can't remember whether it was round 1 or round 2, but I downgraded him to Appy pretty quickly, which cost me a trade. Appy did well, but it cost me a trade, and it sort of stuffed the dynamic of my side as well. It cost me 2 trades really, because the other players that I wanted to make, I could have actually had the cash to have these other players that I wanted, that I was trying to free up cash from Harry to go to Appy. So, I'm a bit off starting with him. I don't think there's enough need to at that price.
I think so too, and I think there's just so many other value options that I'm pretty happy not to start with him. Also, I've always said in the past, if a player goes on an Australian tour, I never start with them. And I think, I don't know, I'm kind of cooled off that because I don't think the Australian tour was as long, and I think players really like to get him a nice touch for the preseason, but I think that will affect him. A lot of these players have come back quite late. Harry is one of them, and I'm just happy to fade it because I don't think that 100 plus score is going to come too early on for us. Newcastle Knights.
If you can just one more thing before we move on from him, just so Harry Grant over 60 points. Last year was only 50%. Only half of his games he only scored over 60, and he's priced at closer to probably 70. 70 points is what you're wanting from him at 690. You know what I mean? At least. 2023, 59%. So jump
Definitely
from 50. 2022, 70%.
Could this coincide with
69% in 21 and then 80% in 2020? So he's kind of really gone on a down drop.
Is this coinciding with the dominance of like Jerome Hughes?
Hughes, possibly, and him not... Well, yeah, maybe, because it was before just...
And like his biggest year was at the Tigers.
Giving him a bit more ball. It probably is a bit of that, hey?
Yeah.
That's a good observation because Munster's always been there and he's always been doing that, but that's that one guy that you can rely on, and he's just sort of gone to himself a bit more than what he'd probably go to.
Yeah, Hughes has gotten better. He's come off a grand final appearance, but he didn't play for the Kiwis. He was injured, so...
We'll want him at some point in the season, but I just think that we can spend our money elsewhere. And if you're going to... I think you probably got 100k less and probably get someone putting out similar numbers.
Yeah, agree. Let's move over to the Newcastle Knights, and who knows what happens here, but we've got Jaden Brayley at 414,000, Phoenix Crossland at 341, and Matt Arthur at 232. I think all three of these guys could genuinely be the starting hooker to start the year. Jaden Brayley.
Maybe not Matt Arthur. Like, I love him, but I just don't reckon they will do it. It seems a bit, he hasn't got enough in him yet to just start him.
I tend to agree with you.
I think he's going to be the future.
I think he's a gun, so I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he's going to be the future, go up against Harry. Yeah.
Oh, he's going to be the next big hooker for sure. Yeah. Time will come. But Jaden Brayley's probably the favourite. All I got here is he averaged 60 in 2021 at his best, and that was in 2021. That's 4 years ago now.
It's hard to get it right because I thought he was on the way out a little bit, and he was very unfavoured. But then they sort of started trying to get more minutes in him. But I think that was due more to the necessity. It's a tough one because they don't really have that main guy. They've got a Phoenix Crossland who's handy footy player. You can put him in a few different spots, but you don't want to put him as your main guy.
Yeah, I think like Jaden Brayley is probably like, to me, we're looking at Blake Brayley at 100k more. Jaden Brayley, when he got the minutes late in the year, so from round 18, 44, 23, 21, pretty shit, but like he was getting into a big minute role. He played 69, 29 and 71 minutes, but from there he played 79, 73, 85, 71, 80 and 80 minutes for scores of 67, 28, 68, 40 and 80 and 46. So a
couple of good ones around there.
A couple of good ones for there. Sure. I think...
But across the board,
he played a lot of 80-minute games last
62
year.
62 minutes he got on average last year, which surprised me. I thought it would have been less. But
he started in round 3.
Yeah,
I thought for some reason he was out injured a lot longer.
Yeah, okay, I thought so too.
Yeah, that's a big sample size. Like, that's a big sample size. And
he's kind of about that 400k. There was another hooker we sort of set at a similar price.
Verrills?
Yeah, kind of similar vibe. Like, I'd probably prefer Jaden Brayley than probably Verrills, but that all just comes down to minutes. So you're talking about individuals as hookers, but I don't know.
I can't trust Adam O'Brien. Phoenix Crossland. Phoenix Crossland could play halfback, and 341k. It's not too bad, I guess. He averaged 46 in 2023, but he's priced at 35.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. Really want to find out the makeup of the side. I feel like Newcastle have had this dynamic for a long time. I remember, I think it was back in It was back in 21 when we had Barnett and Watson swapping between
lock rolls,
and that was doing our head in. So I feel like this could be a similar thing too. So I might just stay wary unless there's any solid info. I'll stay with ones that I've got a bit more belief in their minutes or roles.
I kind of agree. I think Adam O'Brien just seems not to stick to things.
Yeah, except the other thing doesn't stick with it if it doesn't work.
He doesn't have a clear. There's not a clear favourite in each position except fullback, and he still tried to mess around with that the other 2 years ago when Kalen Ponga played 5'8". Oh, how crap was it that he was available at 5'8" his Dally M year? How blessed were we?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I forgot about that.
Number 9. Before we move on, if you're going to have a bet, head over to picklebet.com.au. BBL's going on at the moment, and the BBL is going hot. I'm ranked 1700th in SuperCoach.
Out of how many? How many play that?
I think it's 60,000. Nice. So I'm going okay. I'm ranked higher than Mikey at the moment. I think Jake's slightly ahead of me, though.
And the back-to-back champion from a couple of years back is right up there again, you're saying in the chart?
105th at the moment. So he's the back-to-back winner overall of SuperCoach, and he's 105th at the moment.
He didn't win last year, or did win last year too?
Last year.
I felt like there was a gap.
Yeah,
wow, he could potentially do 3.
He could do 3. It's crazy. But head over to picklebet.com.au. Use the code TURBO when signing up. Let them know that you're coming from our show, and it helps us out. So... but make sure to know what you're really gambling with. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858. Number 9. This one I'm excited about. Wade Egan, $491,400. Priced at a 50.2, but the last 2 years, he's a proven first 7-game player. 67.
Crafty too.
67 and 69 he's averaged in the first 7 rounds the last 2 years. He starts hot, and we know he gets busted by the end of the year. Just all his injuries.
Yeah, so if you're going to get a little go of him, might as well start with him and take a go of him while he's ready to go. I get that. He might get injured at one point in the season. You'll have to deal with it early, but that's, whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. I like it. The only thing that just come to my mind is slight negative, no AFB there this year, which is, he's very easy to put over. Fisher Harris is not a super renowned try scorer at all, really.
Yeah, you don't think Fisher Harris is like the kind of player that can get that sort of go forward?
Well, he hasn't really... he can get go forward, but he just doesn't seem that guy at the line. That
just the one to bust that.
Moses Leota's got probably has had more try scoring finesse than what he's had. But I mean, I wouldn't put any limitations on what the Fish can do. He could take his game to a new level for sure and start being a try scoring machine. Maybe it's just something in the energy at Wah Stadium. But yeah, I like him. I like him at the price. I feel like he's a little bit more than those other ones. Like he's $4.90, but we'll sort of
yeah, there you go.
Fucking nearly took my fucking teeth out. All right, cool. So I was umming and ahhing for a bit about those other ones like we said
Brayley.
Brayley and the other
Blake Brayley
and Verrills. They're sort of 400k. He was on 90k, 80k more, and has SuperCoach, real credentials there when he
does.
So last year over 60 points, just 30%. But the year prior over 60 points, 63%. So he was like in and out last year, been injured a bit more. So yeah, I think there's a bit of belief there. What is he coming back from? Like, what was sort of his... Oh,
just a lot of head knocks, elbow injury seemed to get him out.
Just a guy in the wars more than anything, wasn't it?
I'll tell you what I actually like about Wade Egan as well. The reason I picked up... Oh, my God. This is ridiculous. It's not recording. No, it's recording, but it's like, yeah, I don't know why it turned off. The thing I like about Wade Egan is the Warriors have had a disappointing... last year. They would want to come back from that. And similar to the Cowboys the year before, they missed the 8 and, they really emphasise on starting hot so they can bank some wins. I think the Warriors are going to be very similar. They've got Fisher Harris coming over. I think it instills in a new culture.
Yeah, I really think they can all sort of, the forwards will really feed off him.
Big positive for Wade Egan. No Sean Johnson.
Yeah, potentially. I think the others are still going to command as much ball as whatever, but it might give him a bit more permission to go looking rather than feeling like he's taken a moment that he shouldn't have maybe when he saw something.
And Wade Egan, he's now the senior member in that spine. So I don't know.
Maybe Nickel Krokstad will be, or RTS, whoever you stick there. But
Wade Egan has turned into a crafty player, and I really like him. I think in years past, I was actually not keen on him prior to right now, and I'm kind of talking myself into it. I think there's a lot of positives about him.
If you're excited about anything, mate, I'm sticking it in. So even if I'm not on it, even though I am keen on him, if you're really keen on, he's going in the book, and I'll have a look at it close up. But yeah, let's get him in there.
But yeah, 69 and 67 in the last 2 years for the first 7 rounds, and he's priced at 50. So I think that's amazing. Number 10, North Queensland Cowboys, Reece Robson at 590,600. I think, for 100k cheaper than Harry Grant, I don't mind Reece Robson
going there again, like your trusted boy.
Yeah, I think the last year with the Cows, so I think he will, kind of just make sure he gives it 100%, so his integrity isn't questioned. Townsend and Holmes are gone. So
I remember feeling like that about Reid Marnie before he went on. He had a shocker that year.
I think that's your hairdresser's fault.
Yeah, it is my hairdresser's fault. You got blame him for heaps of stuff, though.
Yeah.
Not just my haircuts.
So Reece Robson, Townsend and Holmes gone, which means he could be relied on for more attacking stats. This could be a plus for Tom Dearden, probably. But also, I don't love their forwards, but, if he can team up with John Bateman, are you putting Reece Robson in there too?
Well, are you thinking about him, or?
Because
I think I'm thinking about Appy as a premium price one, but then, because Blake Brayley, not Blake Brayley, Blake Brayley.
Blake.
Yeah, Blake, Sharks one. 5-ish K, bottom 5K, go up a little bit more to Appy. So that's when it starts getting there.
It's like if you're going to spend that much, you may as well go.
But Reece Robson and Appy are similar price, and had I have gone Robson over Appy, it would have been better for me to go Robson last year. But we'll get to Appy when we get to Appy. But I'm just going to chuck him down because I've got to look at him a bit too.
Yeah, okay. Anything else on Robson? I think he's a pretty good option. Obviously, I said he averaged 74 in his first 6 last year.
Wow.
Priced at a 60. So
that's an interesting fact. So the fact you just said he averaged 74 in his first 6, and he actually only scored 75 points for the season 14% of the time.
A lot in the first.
Yeah, so for him to sort of get that sort of, yeah.
My issue is the Australian. He didn't play any Australian games, but he was in camp for an extended period, so we'll come back a bit later. He signed with the Roosters, which I think is probably a good thing for him because he won't be complacent in that Cowboys side. But I just also, I don't know. I just don't think the same play.
I feel like a little bit because you went there last time. You want something a bit different. I feel very much that. I feel like it's new year. I'm not going to do the same thing. The same things don't always work. What's the different thing?
Yeah, but also
I'm not saying it's a negative thing, but I think it's kind of positive.
Pretty sure he was like 530 the year before. And he was like priced at, I think, a 58 or something like that. Yeah. So I think you'll get value out of him early. But I'm also not high on the Cowboys. I think it was more so I was high on the Cowboys starting hot because we saw how they started in 2022 when Todd Payton came into the system. And I thought they were going to do something similar. So what are you doing there?
I was just looking at just a couple of things. He's only over 60 points is 52% for the year, which is about half. Which is it's not half the time you're probably a little bit disappointed. Yeah, a little bit unless it's like 55 and it's just shy of it or whatever and stuff like that. It's probably not that bad. But
I think I like Wade Egan.
I like the upside of other players more, like Appy at a similar price. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have maybe just put him in lead pencil rather than pen, but that's okay.
I also forgot to mention for Harry Grant as well, like if you're considering starting with him, he's got a buy in round 2. And Verrills also has a buy in round 1, who we didn't.
Yeah, I haven't looked in close enough at look at this.
Yeah.
I spent bloody my whole weekend trying to draw up this
I know.
draw. But because I was just sort of
I thought you'd be all over the buys.
Yeah, it's a bit hard for me. I haven't memorised it. You haven't really studied it. I've just sort of was being a robot.
It's funny, we're getting really excited over these 60 average guys. And it's funny, the common denominator seems to be they all average about 60, right?
The good guys?
Yeah, most of the guys, or some of them fall off after 6 weeks or 10 weeks. But usually a lot of these guys are averaging 60 in the first 6 weeks. So I think that's why you kind of got to look for a bit of value.
Who just had a buy early? Was it you were saying? Just then we were talking about?
Storm have a buy round 2. Sam Verrills has a buy round 1.
Oh, yeah. I thought, because we were talking about Appy, I thought you were saying Appy. I was like, oh, that was a shit.
No, that was last year.
Yeah.
And, we're looking at all these premium options that average...
So I would have started with Appy last year. Just that freaking buy.
Yeah. We're looking at all these premium options that average about 60, right? But there's so many cheapies. And moving on to the Parramatta Eels, number 11, they've got Brendan Hands, 349,000, and Joey Lussick at 344,000. Both genuine cheapie options. We don't know what Jason Ryle's coaching style is, but... when both of these guys got big minutes, they really excelled. Brendan Hands played 19 games in 2024, and he's still a cheapie price, but he played 6 off the bench. Take away those 6 games, and his average is 45.2 instead of 35.7. So a little bit of value there. But, another season, a full preseason under his belt.
Yeah, he was very, very, green last year. He's got a bit of footy into him.
Yeah. I had him at the end of the year, and I think he was pretty good. Joey Lussick, on the other hand, I don't know if he's right for that side. I think Brendan Hands suits their style a lot more, but when he's priced at 35.2, but when he started, he averaged 47. So it seems like there's more upside in Joey Lussick, but for me, I don't think... if Joey Lussick was named to start, that there's more longevity in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tough dynamic again, how they go with it. I kind of get the vibe maybe start with Joey Lussick and bring Brendan Hands on, but you've got to remember Brendan Hands is, a big raps on him coming through the Penrith system as well. So, he's definitely a good little footy player. He had a high score of 100 last year, so he's got some upside in him too. He's scored a lot of tries in the New South Wales Cup prior to he's making first grade. So I've got just a couple of things on him. I said the first 5 games of the year were all under 30 minutes for him last year. The first 5 games he played, and he only averaged 17.2 minutes as a whole, so which is pretty rough.
That brings his numbers down.
As a whole for the first 5 games. And then the back end from round 13 to round 27, he played 11 games. They were all over 60 minutes. So started to get favoured by, that coach, new coach. So maybe different, but at least he's getting that sort of nod from the coach and the rest of the side. And then the back end, he played 6 80-minute games. So he's got 80-minute games in him. You know what I mean? That's a positive.
I think he's the style of player that you want to play for 80 minutes as well, just because he's the type of player who, he doesn't rely on explosiveness. It's more just tackle and pass. And I kind of like that as a cheapie prospect.
Yeah, I think he's crafty close to the line, though, too. I think he just didn't get to show it enough last year. I think And I guess with Gutherson gone, that, brings back another element to the Parramatta Eels, so maybe... whoever does play hooker will have to step up. I don't love either of them because I didn't love last year and having to juggle which one is going to play week to week. But if round 1, Brendan Hands is named to start and Joey Lussick is nowhere to be seen, I'd consider it. Yeah, I'm chucking Brendan Hands in there. I'm not that big on Joey Lussick. If he got the minutes, the price would be good, but... I wouldn't be confident he'd get the minutes if he was starting. I'd be still thinking they'd probably bring Brendan Hands on if he was on the bench and get him good minutes, especially if he was getting good minutes towards the back end of last year. The
best dynamic for them is Hands starting, Lussick coming off the bench, in my opinion. If they're going to...
But it seems like a weird dynamic bringing the sort of older...
No, but I think Joey Lussick is a bit more explosive. So I think that's why they would do it. But at the same time, I don't think they're both good enough to take 2 spots out. And I think Brendan Hands has the potential to jump out of the ground and take that next step, whereas I think Joey Lussick has already...
Might have seen enough sort of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Number 12, the Penrith Panthers, Mitch Kenny. I'm not going to spend long on Mitch Kenny. Kenny's priced at a 47, averaged 45 in his first 6 weeks. Not a lot of upside here. Only his 3 high scores, 75, 75 and 60.
Yeah, love him as a footy player. He's a mad dog, but I just think he's just one of those guys that's just not really SuperCoach relevant. 75 minutes average last year just for 47 points. Can't see much going to change there. Yeah.
I agree. Number 13, Wayne Bennett coached South Sydney Rabbitohs. We've got Pete Mamazelis, 302,900. We've got Saliva Havili at 319,100. We've also got Jamie Humphries there, but he's not available at hooker in SuperCoach, so we're not going to talk about him, but we will speak about the potential rotation. Mamazelis has been signed there for a long time under Cook, so I think
he's the one I'm definitely starting with.
Yes.
Like I'm definitely in my gut vibe. I feel like I think he's just got to get minutes. Like whether he starts, whether he doesn't start, he'll get good minutes. They're not going to play Havili for max minutes, and I can't see him. Why would they then just bring Humphries there for him when he's been? And he's
100%. I guess unlike Matt Arthur and Owen Paddy, they don't need to blood Mamazelis. Mamazelis has already done his apprenticeship. He played 4 games last year over 50 minutes for 73, 50, 68 and 48 at an average of 59.7. So these are very similar numbers to the guys we're talking about who we're going to pay premium price for. So if he gets over 50 minutes, I don't know if we expect that, but the fact that we've got a little bit of a sample size and he did produce that, I do like that, and I think just, if he's named to start, he's in my side. Yeah,
so he averaged 36 minutes last year, and just purely based on what they've got to work with and his, natural career progression, I feel like he's got to go to 50 minutes. At least. Sure. So if he's going to 50 minutes, he's going to lift that PPM up. He's going to have more of a role. He's going to have more time on there to actually have an impact rather than just sort of coming on and being like, all right, here's my little go. So, yeah, really big on him. I can't see him not being a starter. So I feel like he's someone that if you can have, if you're going to go 2 cheapies, you'd play him. And if you're going to go a bit more of a gun in a second one, you can be confident that he's still going to make money while your gun's still performing and doing enough of a job too where you're confident to play him, whereas that way you're kind of leaving out the option of getting stuck with that guy that just plods, because we have one every year at hooker that sort of he's hard to get rid of until a week where you're like, I might just side trade him for another cheapie that's going to be better or something. So I like Mamazelis. I think he's the reason why we probably can consider 2 cheapies, because I think he's solid enough. I guess with Wayne Bennett, his history isn't good with hookers, like attacking wise. He kind of tells him to dish it, but like we saw for the Dolphins, he really had to use Jeremy Marshall-King, and Marshall-King played massive minutes. I think has he shifted in his mentality for hookers? Maybe, but with Latrell and Cody, maybe it will be more of the old Wayne, where it's like, we don't need you to do much, just throw the ball. But if he gets enough minutes, it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah, I think the minutes will come regardless. I do see potentially maybe they just start with Havili to get that bigger bodies all in the middle, especially depending who they're playing with. And yeah, Wayne Bennett's hard to read for me. Like I'm not really great at sort of putting back like 5 years ago at patterns, that sort of thing. I can only usually think back to the year prior for me. That's as far as I can usually go with patterns and stuff like that with footy. And when I look at it, Wayne Bennett, he shows both given favouring sort of just gritty guys that will just get through the work and be gritty, like those Ray Stones and stuff like those sorts of players. And that's where I kind of think maybe you could just start with a viewing. But I still think Mamazelis will get the minutes.
Bit of Benny Scarf about Wayne Bennett. Be gritty. I see the merit in that, but I think Pete Mamazelis has just waited long enough that I think it's his time to shine, and it's his position to lose, in my opinion. I think the reason they let Damien Cook go is because they had Pete Mamazelis.
They had the guy.
And, if they really didn't think he was ready, I think they would have fought harder to keep Damien Cook at least one more year, maybe. But speaking of Damien Cook, number 14, the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Damien Cook, 662,000, and Jacob Little at 640,000. I'll kick it off with Jacob Little. He's not going to get a starting spot, most likely. There could be a situation where he gets starting spot and Cook starts at 13. Who knows? I doubt that happens, but he had a breakout year. He averaged 50.4 in his first 6, but ended up averaging 65 for the year, which is like he just went nuts in the later the year. Yeah. I think Damien Cook coming to the club kills him.
I think they signed Damien Cook probably before he sort of went on the rampage.
Yeah.
They're like, what's going on here? We didn't do this. Where are we spending our money?
Exactly. But I think both of them are going to play big roles within the club. I just need to see it first, to be honest, when you're going to spend that amount of money.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't think Little will start. I just see the way that Cook's got so much versatility that they could just start him, bring Little on, and then put Cook through the middle and play anywhere. And he'll probably find his way into the centres starting a couple of times through injury, because that seems like the thing to do with him now. To be fair,
they don't have heaps of depth, so
it probably will happen again, man.
He'll be that utility, I reckon.
At some point.
You know what? This is a bold prediction. Oh, maybe it's not. He'll play 6 this year.
Maybe at some point.
I think Damien Cook will play 6 this year. That's not just because like if Flanagan or Ilias get injured or suspended, I think they put him in there because they got no one. Or did they sign a backup?
I'm not too sure about their young guys coming through or anything like that. There might be a couple of...
I'm pretty sure they signed a pretty handy backup, actually. I could be wrong. Let me just suss that out. I'm sorry if this is bad. St. George. 2 players. No, we want 5'8". They got Flanagan. They've got Ilias. Yeah, they've got Flanagan and Ilias. They were screwed if they didn't sign Ilias. So I think that's...
One thing to note here is both players last year averaged... Cook was 75 and Little was 73 minutes for their clubs. And it'd be hard to see them both getting those sorts of minutes unless they really do just keep Cook on, which they probably could keep him on through the whole time. But if they're not starting Little, then how long till they bring him on? So I see Little's minutes have to drop at least from 73 to closer to maybe 60 or something.
And to be fair, at this price, you can get a Homoli Olakuatu at second row, like a premium second rower. And I just think these guys had really good seasons last year. I don't see them topping that early
and you're paying for that this year because of that. Yeah.
Number 15, the Sydney Roosters. I'm not very hot on them this year. We haven't got Brandon Smith in there because he won't feature for the start of the season. This is a preseason analysis podcast. Connor Watson will start there at 583,000, which... It's not too bad. First 6 last year, he wasn't really locked into the team. He averaged 51.2, and then he went on to average 81 in his next 6 games after that. But that was playing lock. He started at number 9 for 2 games, only 2 games, 58 and 53, which I was kind of surprised. I thought he did a lot more than that.
I haven't seen much of him really at hooker, you know what I mean?
But the thing, what he was doing for the Roosters when Brendan Smith was there, he was playing 13 and then moving into 9 when Brendan Smith come off the field. So that's what got him his Origin jersey. I think I rate him as a number 9. I think he's a good player, but... the Roosters, they just got rid of Terrell May, Jared Warrior-Hargraves. Like, are they going to have enough go forward for him to...
I really like him as an individual.
Same.
Yeah, like he's got mad upside. He's just got so much footy in him that he can do things himself just off the cuff. And he's just like... And he's very SuperCoach friendly. He always kind of has been, regardless to where he's sort of playing, what position. But yeah, I don't know, 580k, it's still sort of around that same Appy price. And I just feel, I don't know, a little bit more... confident and happy, but maybe I need to have a closer look at him, especially with the halves being a little bit less strong. Maybe he does have a little bit more of a bit more control and goes himself a bit more.
Go yourself, deal bags. I guess that brings us on to probably the boldest person in your black book at the moment.
Yeah, why?
Appy.
Oh yeah, why is he bold? Oh, no. Oh, bold as in text. I thought you meant bold as in, like, bold prediction. Like, it's a crazy thing to do. Okay.
Hey, you keep veering like that way. I think
it's the chair, man.
I think you're slightly out of shot now.
Oh, I probably will. Like, I feel like this chair's... Yeah, it's got wheels and I'm leaning this way. Gravity's just taking its play. So, yeah, Appy. Love Appy. And I think I was a little bit off him to start with because obviously I was thinking I'm going double cheapy, so I just sort of put him to the back of my mind. And then when I started to think maybe there is something to starting with one, especially if a lot of people are doing the double cheapies. He's always got that. He's got that upside. He's got that game in him. But the one thing I was concerned about with, I was like, now with Jerome there, they've got an extra half there. Does he be less control? Because he was really running that side a lot. And Galvin was still getting a lot of good ball and stuff. But now I'm thinking, like, he's actually got a good thing here because he's had Appy's had a year to combine with Galvin and know what sort of ball he needs and when he needs it and how, and then Appy's got that experience with Jerome as well too. So I don't see it being too much of an issue, and I think it could maybe... I don't know.
And he has played with him before. Like, it's not like it's a new person coming into the side.
Yeah.
And also, the good thing, like, Luai can be dominant, but he's let Cleary shine and be the dominant Supercoach player for years now. Like, I understand he's coming in and he's probably the big dog, but, like, Appy is also a big dog. Like, there's a world where Luai coming in just opens up Appy just that little bit more.
And an extra nice forward. I know like they've lost Stefano Uchikamano, who's pretty decent close to the line. He's got try-scoring finesse as well in the past, but I feel like Terrell May, Appy could really use him and get him off maybe across a couple more times.
Well, it's pretty much like the exact comparison with AFB versus James Fisher-Harris. Like, Fisher-Harris is that guy that probably doesn't bust a tackle or threaten with an offload late to the line, whereas Terrell May is that guy. And, like, in my notes here, all I've got is first six average 65.2, goal kicking, and Terrell May in bold letters. Like, Terrell May really excites me for the Tigers, and I think Appy's going to he's going to benefit from Terrell May more than anyone will. I guess looking at the Roosters, it could potentially be a downside for someone like Connor Watson losing someone so explosive.
The other thing I like about Appy is that he's playing in a side where the coach will just back them to attack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've got less probably rules on getting to positions and doing this and don't chance that and just to play the safe play where they'll sort of take a riskier sort of thing, which is in attacking footy can be a good thing.
Yep. In
SuperCoach, it can be a detriment too if you just make heaps of mistakes and then the other team's getting all over you. But yeah, that's a positive. So I'm pretty big. I feel like if I'm going to a big guy, I like Brayley because he's a little bit cheaper. So I'd have to look at that close up. But I feel like Appy's a guy I feel like I could just leave there and be confident until it gets closer to Origin.
It's funny, we're talking about this like 100k difference. Oh, it's not that much. Like, could just go with the 100k guy more. But that 100k is so useful. It is. Like, so I like Appy as well. Goal kicking, for some reason, I thought he was going to lose it this year, but I'm looking at the side. Adam Dewey maybe takes it, but Adam Dewey was inside last year when he
that's
had
weird,
it.
hey, because Adam Dewey, like, he's got pretty big range on him, and that's the one thing I think Appy sort of from the sideline. He, like, I remember when he first started, he just sort of seemed like, but then he'd worked on it and it was getting a bit better. Yeah, hard to gauge if he was kicking. That's a massive thing to consider. I know they don't score a bunch of tries compared to other clubs.
They'll score more, so maybe that's also a plus. So I like Appy. Guns wise, I think Appy, like guns. Who do you classify as a gun? Probably. I guess we're going to talk about Jeremy Marshall-King first. So we'll go to Jeremy Marshall-King. Where did he go? Number 17. 555,000. So you could get Jeremy Marshall-King for just a little bit more than Blake Brayley. First six, he averaged 64 last year. Very attack dominant in that Dolphins side. With the likes of Safidi and Gilbert coming into the side, there'll be more go forward. And I doubt Flegler starts the season, but I mean, their forward pack has gotten better. They've got, the hammer at the back. They've got a lot of threats, and I think someone like Christian Wolf will be wanting to start hot to prove his worth.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jeremy Marshall-King, and I think he's always a handy guy. I feel like he's probably more of a, for me, that around the buys and stuff like that to pick up a hooker. He seems like around that. So, I mean, you could pick him up any time of the year. It just depends. Price-wise, though, like he's 40k difference from Appy, and he's great though. Jeremy Marshall-King's got great running game, wonderful running game. Just steps out, makes a couple of tackle bars. He's got a lot in him, but I don't feel like it's ever too consistent.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He goes on little
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of the same with Jeremy Marshall-King. I think he can average that, but he relies on a lot to do it. I don't know. Just a feeling in me, like he's never been one where I can put him in my side and be comfortable. Whereas these other guys have done it for longer. Like I'd be more than happy to put him in at a certain point of the season, but starting with him, I think...
When you know for an extra 30, 40K, other people got that guy, and it's like, is that who I want to have? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Moving on to the dual position players who pretty much, they're available at hooker, but they won't play hooker for their side. Max Plath is on the top of the list, 617,000. Take away his first 3 games where, he's getting into his work. He averages 66. He's priced at a 63, so not much changes there. I think with the addition of Safidi, Gilbert back into the side, I think he's a great player, and also a new coach. He played a lot of minutes last year. I think there's too many variables to take the risk.
Yeah, I know that's something you're sort of factored in. You flagged that. I remember you saying to me on the phone checks, I was like, I don't mind him. And you're like, I've got something to say on him before. And I was like, I know what you're going to say. And I knew what you were going to say that with the other guys coming back. But to me, on the flip side, I can see that kind of maybe helping as well. Like the other boys that are the bigger forwards, like Gilbert and Plegel back, taking bigger, stronger carries, and then he's coming on the back of that. You know what I mean? It's not like...
I guess kind of like AFB going to the Warriors, where it was like the 1-2 punch of Tohu Harris going up, and then and then Barnett, and then the line's already broken, and then AFB close to the line.
And the third guy that comes in and has takes the spoils of all of that defence, the carnage that's been left there. So, and he's very zippy, and he's got that sort of ducks under tackles and sort of stuff. I like him.
Well, he's a hooker by trade.
Yeah. So I do like it. I like the fact that he's a dual as well, that if you do still want to keep him, but then you want to downgrade, you could, sell one of your second rowers that aren't working out after a couple of rounds or whatever, move him to second row for a bit, and then buy whatever cheapy hooker that's really nailing it, or whichever gun hooker maybe seems like, maybe you got to have this guy right now. He's going off his head, you know what I mean? So... yeah, I like him. He's definitely on my list. And I thought, actually, there was a point, I must say, that if I was thinking I wasn't going a cheapie, the 2 cheapies, so my initial stage of thinking about SuperCoach for this new year, I was like, double cheapies. My next thought was, if I'm not going double cheapies, I'm going Max Plath. And then it's when I then started going, if I was going to do that, would I maybe go to Appy? I've put a line through... Harry, because he's a little bit too expensive, and I just think that he doesn't really zip it too hard to start with. But yeah, Max Plath.
I guess in a position like hooker, in years previous, what has the upside been? Like, it's been Harry, and if you're not going to go Harry, then Max Plath, if he gets the minutes...
Appy presents the upside now. There wasn't much upside before that, but he presents a lot of upside. He's very, very crafty. He's got a lot in him, close to the line, you know what I mean? So he's the guy I'd want to... If I had a hooker close to the line, you want to be on him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Can the Tigers get him close to the line more often than not? Let's hope. But yeah, so do like the idea of Max Plath. The idea I think I like about Max Plath is a part of me. I've been a very, very upside dominant SuperCoach player for too long and not really cared about base. And that didn't hurt me in 21 when there was so much upside. But when that sort of dropped off a bit and you still got to kind of look at base a bit more, I've fallen a bit behind there. And that's why I'm kind of looking at guys like Max Plath, who he's going to make his runs and he's going to make tackles, where some of these other hookers are playing similar minutes are only just getting through their tackles and they're not really getting through the runs. He's got double sort of scoring potential there. So... yeah, I know he's sort of just average, similar to some of these other premium guys, but I just like the consistency of his scoring. It's always very... It's like he reminds me of like a Yo. He's not as good as Yo, but they're very consistent. You pay for what you get, and I want to have a couple of guys in my side this year that you pay for what you get. So, I think I'm starting with a Yo, which we'll get to in a couple of weeks, but.
Yeah, okay.
So for those reasons, I think I want to have a little bit of base consistency.
Well, Plath is the base stat, one of the base stat gurus, the base stat kings. So, yeah, I don't mind it, but I also...
You need to have those guys you can rely on.
And the thing is, you need to take these risks when certain things don't look like it's going to go in their favour. I think Max Plath is the type of guy that, someone like Christian Wolf, if he wants to make a bold statement, put faith, Max Plath, you're my guy, and it could just make him go to another level. So, I guess just in that case, that would work out for you. We've got Cameron McInnes, Chris Randall, but I want to touch on Sandon Smith first. 237,600. He's currently in my side at the moment at halfback. I'll probably change it back to hooker. But Sandon Smith, 2 80-minute games last year for a 69.5 average. 6 80-minute games the year before for a 48.6 average. He had a score of 25 and 27 in there as well with the 80-minute games. So you will get them. We do expect them.
Yeah. Especially as a half, there's not that work rate of the defence and stuff. So you're going to be, but you can be pleasantly surprised sometimes. He could have some big upside games with the attacking side of it.
I think he's the type of guy who I won't say he's a must-have, but I think he's a really attractive
He seems pretty close too, but he could be a little bit trappy if he doesn't kick on too much. But at that price, you can...
237,000. He's one of the only ones who is below that 280k mark. And
he could be a plotter, but I think if you're patient with him in whatever position and he might for 2-3 weeks stink it up. Fuck. He could stink it up for 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, where you're kind of like, this isn't working out, and there's another, say you got him at halfback or you got him at hooker or whatever, and you'd be like, really could do with this other hooker who's going a bit better. But if you're just a bit patient with him, it might just take 1 or 2 big games for him to have a couple of try assists, and then that to really then get his cash gen going.
Yep.
So for me, I think it's really, really nice that he's got the dual, because I can't fit him into my side yet, but I don't know where. I will, but he's not in my side yet.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of whether whether he makes more sense a hooker, because maybe there's 2 hookers I want to fit in. I'm like, I've got to have those 2 hookers. Then I'll put him as one of my halves, my second half. But at the moment, I'm sort of going 2 decent halves. So, yeah, it's hard to find the spot. But I think there's potential there for the price for sure.
The thing is, I love Wade Egan. I love Blake Brayley. I love all these type of guys, but I think Pete Mamazelis and Sandon Smith just make so much sense. I think they're so good, and Sandon Smith probably going to goal kick.
You got him at
I've got him at halfback at the moment, but that's just because I was trying to fit in my flex.
Yeah.
But I haven't really touched my side too much. Yeah, I'm trying not to overthink it, even though we're bloody deep diving into all these stats. I think I want to tinker with my side later on.
No, I'm a bit the same. I'm like, I want to go. Yeah. I want to do the homework, but it doesn't mean I'm going to have to change my side in 2 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got bloody 2 months till that happens. So, Sandon Smith goal kicking. Chad Townsend could goal kick, but Sandon Smith did goal kick at points last year. I think it's between them two. So, I like the chance that he gets there. I like it. I'm not too hot on the Roosters, but I just think he's a bottom dollar. He'll score a try or set up a try eventually. So
I think we just need to be patient with him. But the good thing is he's going to get through the minute. He'll have 8 minutes. With some of these other cheaper ones, will be like, oh no, he's only getting 20 minutes. He might score. The hookers in 20 minutes might score the same points as Sandon over 80 because he hasn't gone through much. But if you be patient, he'll then with that time something will happen.
I would purely play him on matchup. I wouldn't play him round 1.
I don't reckon I'll be playing him too much.
Yeah, I think there could be a point where, if you see someone who's just, their defence looks a bit shaky here and there, and Sandon Smith is up against them, I wouldn't mind playing it.
I say that now, but then you think about what actual depth you have for round 1, you start to have him play a couple of these guys.
You're like, this guy plays 80 minutes, I may as well put him in my side. Chris Randall, 510,000, not much I want to say here. Apart from the first 4 where, him and Verrills were kind of sharing the role. He averages 56. He's priced at 52. There's not much upside there. And Regan Campbell-Gillard, Jamin Jolliffe and Fodawaker and Tino coming into the side as middles, I think he regresses a bit. Cam McInnes, though, 585, averages 60, and that's what you'll get.
Yeah, I feel like of those other duels.
And also, just back on Cam McInnes, we did talk about him before with AFB. Maybe he does play that linking role with AFB like Tohu did, and they start setting each other up for tries.
Yeah, potentially, because he's actually probably got way better ball skills than what Tohu would.
Yeah, he was a hooker.
Yeah.
He kind of he's turned into that meat and potatoes type player, but maybe they develop a tip on with each other.
Yeah, I think if it's same price as... Oh, he's not the same price as Max Plath, but it's about, $30K more. I think I just prefer the youth of Max Plath.
Yeah. Max Plath is probably a
because they're basically the same thing. They're dual hooker second rowers.
McInnes plays Penrith in round 1, where he broke the record for most tackles in a game, 88 tackles.
Yeah.
So... McInnes could be a good
He could
one.
be a bit of a legend over in Vegas once they do a bit of a... They love him with his tooth out. They love that. Especially those Swamp Dayu... What are they called?
Yeah.
Those... I don't know. Dayub, is that what they're called?
What?
The Swamps? The Dayubs? I don't know what they're called.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. All right, let's rank these players. Who's in your black book is what I need to know.
Mate, so it's very competitive. These hookers are going to have to work. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names. It's a lot of names.
Oh, geez, for hooker.
Yeah, they're only 2 spots, but it's good. We're going to thin it down.
It's going to be a long and long.
I could probably put a line through some of them because at a similar price, I know I much prefer Appy over, say, some of these others.
Yep.
But so we've got Blake Brayley there. He's a bit low 5, so I haven't got all the prices here. You might want to yell them out if you want to. Lachlan Croker, Wade Egan, Reece Robson, Brennan Hands, Peter Mamazoulos, Connor Watson, Appy Coruscant, Max Plath, Sandon Smith. So I think I'm probably going to just be going... At this point, I've got Mamazoulos and Croker. Croker would probably drop out for, Appy or potentially, Reece Robson or Blake Brayley, if I was to think one was a bit more value there or whatever, but probably Appy. More Max Plath. Sandon, I think I'd probably stick at second half. I don't know, because I kind of want to start with Jerome and Hines. But I'm not that sold on Jerome. I'm just excited for him.
Available at 5'8".
True, but I think I've got bigger fish to fry in that position too. Let me have a look.
Jesus Christ, your side's cooked already.
Yeah, because I'm pretty big on if Will Price starts, I want him. And then I've got Luke Metcalf, and I think there's a lot of value in both of those. So I think if I have to, then I'd have to put Jerome there. But I don't have to start with him. I want him to go well, and I want to see him do well. But it's not like a slam dunk price either.
Yeah, I think for me, Pete Mamazoulos, Sandon Smith are in there. Blake Moser I'm interested in, but I think going through a lot of these options, I think there's a lot better options than Blake Moser. I think Supercoach wise, he hasn't quite popped off like a couple of these guys. I think in an ideal world, if nothing pops up in halfback, maybe Sandon Smith will have to go there because there are so many options at hooker. But in an ideal world, Sandon Smith is at hooker for me.
Yeah, because it does seem hard to... I feel like the reason I like that... the good thing is he's got the dual.
Yep.
He's got the dual. Because I was just panicking thinking, well, if you put him at halfback and he doesn't kick on and then you need 2-gun halfbacks quickly, you're like, how am I going to upgrade him to that? But then you can chuck him at hooker if you have to.
I think that ties us into where we were talking about the flex position. I think what you got to do is, if you've got Pete Mamazoulos and you've got Sandon Smith at halfback, you've got to make sure
at hooker.
Say you got Sandon Smith at halfback and you got Pete Mamazoulos at hooker.
Yep.
You got to make sure you got a gun hooker so you can sell that person to get him up. So you can get the gun halfback in, or vice versa with the fullbacks. Because if you've got the cheapie in the fullback position, I think
the Mamazoulos need to be doing his job for you to be able to then move the other bloke up.
Yes. Yep. So I think you've got to cover yourself there. So if you've got Iongi, you've got Sandon at halfback and double cheapies at hooker, I think that it could work. It could work completely in your favour, but I think you're kind of selling yourself short in two of the gun positions in halfback and fullback.
Yeah.
I think you've pretty much got these three positions, they kind of tie in with each other, in my opinion.
Yeah, getting the balance is going to be a lot different to sort of shake up this year, I think, having that extra...
I agree. Got anything else?
No, I'm excited to... be getting back into SuperCoach chat.
So am I.
I just want to try. No, I don't have to get it perfect to start off, but I don't want to get it too wrong. Let's just try to get it close enough to decent starting
I think
sides.
already compared to last year, this an hour and a half podcast on a position where we thought, it's just locked in double cheapy. I think there's a lot to think about, and every episode will be very similar where it's like, okay, what are we going to do here? Maybe this is the way to go. There's so many ways to go about it. We are back at DM Podcast.
It'll take a lot more shape as the season goes on too. Like when you start working out, I know I'm doing that, and I have to do that. That'll sort of force your hand to what you have to do in some of these other positions like hooker that aren't as important.
Yeah, 100%. We are back at DM Podcast Studio next week. We're just in Bella Vista today because... damn podcasts are still on holidays. So we're back before everyone else, and that's how we like it because pretty much our preseason podcasts go right up till the last week before team list drop, and we're straight into the season. So front row forwards next week at DM Podcast Studio. On the Burst is back next week as well, our NRL show. And I think the schedule for the year is going to be, we're going to have this positional podcast on a Tuesday. This one probably drops a bit earlier for you guys because it's
recorded a day earlier than what we will normally do it.
A day earlier than what we usually do. And then we'll probably have like a little video on like a Sunday, a video and an audio thing on a Sunday where it's just me going through like value buys and stuff like that, just kind of summarizing what we're doing in these kind of episodes. And then we have some team reveals coming as well from people in the SuperCoach community. So I've got some big guests lined up for that. So stay tuned for that. And Timmy, thank you for coming on.
No worries, thank you.
We'll see you next week, and hopefully that Black Book gets a bit of a workout. Or is that Black Book a live... live edition?
It's pretty green, but we're going to have to try and remember its colour. It's... the Black Book's stuck in the mind, though. It's a green book. It's a green book.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.